Piggy chapters. You have your base 12 in book 1 and your base 12 in book 2. And that's kind of it. Or is it? Hi everybody, my name is Benjerizer and welcome back to my channel. Guys, today we are going to be talking about those extra Piggy chapters, the character-focused or CFC chapters. Even though the C and CFC kind of stands for chapters, whatever. So if you guys don't know what a Piggy CFC chapter is, it's basically a chapter that isn't in the mainline story, but it works to, I guess, explain something. Like, for instance, Distraction is Zizzy's story while she's trying to escape the refinery, or Breakout is Tigre's story in the military, just a bunch of stuff like that. And honestly, these are some of my favorite chapters in the entire game, so without further ado, let's go!
And this little piggy went wee all the way to jail!
Okay, so coming in last place, unfortunately, is Distorted Memory. Now, I think this is actually a really fun chapter to play. It's very simple. It was also the very first one Minitoon ever did, and it honestly still holds up. Basically, here you play as Georgie in an insolence-ified version of the house, but until book 2, we didn't realize that this had anything to do with the insolence, and we kind of still don't know, but we're just kind of assuming here. And yeah, the gameplay's really fun. It's basically just house, but with a couple modifications here and there, and I kind of dig it. But really where this one kind of sucks is the story department. Basically, in the end cutscene, you see Georgie's eyes turn red like he's infected, and then he wakes up from his dream, because the entire thing was a dream. Don't you just love it when games do that, hello neighbor? So basically, that just means this chapter, for the most part, doesn't matter. In hindsight, it did kind of introduce us to this whole idea of the insolence, but because we didn't really see that, then it didn't really matter because we could only make that connection in hindsight, if you get what I mean. So yeah, Distorted Memory is a pretty solid chapter, but compared to some of the other ones on here, it's just not quite as good. Moving on. Alright, now coming in 5th place, we have Distraction. Now, this was released between Chapter 11 and Chapter 12 of Book 2, and it's a pretty solid chapter if I'm being honest. This one has Zizzy trying to escape the refinery, and I guess also blow up the freaking refinery. And once again, she's being chased down by insolence-ified versions of everything, including her sisters, which is honestly an amazing skin. The twin skin is really freaking creepy in this map, and I honestly love it. And yeah, really the whole map is very well done. It really is creepy. And it's also very replayable, which is also something I liked about Distorted Memory. Like, both of these chapters are very replayable. And just one little thing that I love is how over the course of the map, your screen gets darker and darker, showing that Zizzy's becoming more and more infected, which I think is just really awesome. Like, that's such a cool little detail they threw in there. But unfortunately, this one also kind of falters in the story department. It's definitely not as bad as Distorted Memory's story, not by a long shot, but it does kind of leave a couple loose ends here. First off, we don't know what happens to Zizzy in the end. I mean, we see her in the hidden ending final cutscene, but other than that, she just gets dragged away by this weird hand, and we just never see her again. We do get a lot of insight into Tio's backstory, though, but nothing is specifically stated. It's just a lot of, like, theory bait, but I don't know. It's definitely still interesting. So it's fine, but compared to some of these other stories that we're about to see in a couple minutes, it doesn't really hold its own. But I think this chapter has a lot of positives, and I still really like it. Moving on.
I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying.
Man, I'm gonna get so much hate for this one. In 4th place, I have Decay. Now, this is the newest one, and it is about Bunny escaping the metro. And don't get me wrong, it is a very cool chapter, but it is not replayable in the slightest. I'm sorry. It takes probably around 25-30 minutes for one match of this, and it's a really hard map if I'm being honest. There's so many intricate puzzles that honestly really stumped me on my first playthrough. I mean, I think it took me about an hour and a half just to get to the Bonnet chase, and then I died at the Bonnet chase. Speaking of Bonnet, though, she is an absolutely fantastic skin, easily one of the creepiest and coolest in all of Piggy, so I'll give credit where credit's due, Minitoon. Amazing job. But overall, I just didn't really find this chapter all that much fun. It's definitely more of an experience than a replayable chapter, if you catch my drift. But it was still really good nonetheless. The animations and just quality of everything skyrocketed because they brought on Wizard Watch Studios, which, yeah, it really did. I mean, they did a fantastic job. But once again, the story here kind of sucks, if I'm being honest. Like this is probably the one that left me with the most questions, which will be answered in Decay Part 2, hopefully, which is on its way right now. So hopefully within the next couple months, we will be seeing Decay Part 2, and it will answer all these questions, because I swear that final cutscene made absolutely no sense. So yeah, Decay is a really, really great chapter with very interesting gameplay for Piggy that is unlike basically anything we've seen up to this point. And the whole team really cooked on it, so definitely check it out, even if it's just like a one-off experience. Moving on. Now we're into the really good ones. So in third place, we have Mansion. Now, I really, really love this map. It is definitely one of the harder maps in Piggy, unfortunately, but also kind of fortunately because it really challenges you. First off, Duokara, I think I'm saying it right now because I was saying Duokara before. Duokara is a really interesting bot. His gimmick is having two faces, with one being blue and one being red. And when it's on the red face, you just gotta sprint for your life. But when it's blue, you can look at him and he won't, like, really chase after you. And this is something that I kind of want to see in more Piggy chapters because it's really, really interesting. But yeah, the story of this chapter is that Z and Zuzi break into Old Man Eddie's house. Yes, they just randomly love to commit breaking and entering. Good job, Z and Zuzi, such upstanding citizens. And then they get chased down by Duokara, who is his, like, security robot. Then eventually they escape. Zizzy finds them. They talk to Eddie, and he's like, "Oh, don't do that again, little youngins." And then we basically get the most insane lore drop of all time because this teases so much for Inner City. So we see Old Man Eddie talking to Finley, who's now like this really big recurring character who could have like major implications for Piggy's future. And we also see this like crystal thing, which we hadn't seen up until this point. And it gives us a lot of clues on what's actually going on in Intercity, which will hopefully come out this year. Please let this be the year. But yeah, this one just has a lot of really great stuff. That painting puzzle is also really, really cool. I would really, really like to see that put into build mode. That would be awesome. And yeah, Mansion is really worth a play. It's honestly pretty awesome. But there's still two that are better than it, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's check those out. Moving on.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot.
Alright, coming in second place, we have Breakout. Now, I honestly really love this map. Is it replayable? Not so much. Is it fun? Sometimes. But I think one thing this map absolutely excels at is being genuinely creepy. Umbra is a pretty creepy bot, if I'm being completely honest. Especially with how they work, where they, like, drop down from the ceiling randomly or just randomly, like, make stupid noises. It honestly just makes the whole experience a lot creepier. Really where this one excels, though, is in that story, man. Basically, this is where we get Tigree's backstory. And it's a really freaking good one. We see his early years, how he got, like, bullied in school. And then we see his home life, where he got bullied at home. And then he runs away to join the military, and he finds some happiness there. And then he goes on this mission that is the Breakout chapter. And he kills someone. And at that point, he has to desert. And it's honestly kind of sad to watch. And then this final part with him and Willow is genuinely really great. I mean, it has some pretty solid writing, especially for Piggy. And if you know these characters, it definitely hits you in the feels because it shows that after all these years and all the fighting they've been through, they do still care for each other. And I think that's really sweet. So yeah, Breakout is quite possibly the scariest Piggy chapter, and it has a fantastic story. So that's why it ranks number 2. But there's still one that is better than it, and that's because it is probably one of my favorites in the entire game. So without further ado, let's check that one out. And coming in first place is the Heist chapter. I absolutely love this one. Basically, you play as either Willow or Pony, and you're trying to steal a pie for William, who's Willow's brother. But before we really get to, like, the story of this chapter, which is the main thing I love about it, let's actually talk about the gameplay, because it's still so much fun. It really has this whole heist vibe, which is what Minitoon was going for. I mean, you're getting hunted down by Polly, the police officer, and you gotta, like, break into all these different buildings. It's honestly really, really cool. And it's a great use of the Piggy formula that we really haven't seen replicated to this day. And while a lot of the CFC chapters kind of strive away from the normal Piggy formula, I mean, even something like Mansion has a lot of different puzzles compared to what you would normally see in Piggy. This came out right before Distraction did, so this was, I think, the second character-focused chapter. And so I think this is probably the most peak Piggy gameplay gets. It's fairly basic, I mean, as most Piggy gameplay is, but I think it works so darn well here. And now, let's just jump right into the story. This cutscene is the best in all of Piggy. I'm convinced. You cannot convince me otherwise. Basically, it shows part of Willow's backstory that we didn't see at the end of Factory, and it's just really, really interesting stuff. It's also, like, really, really sad, too. And Wash Clean by the River by B-Slick is an actual banger. Please go listen to it. It's so good, and it sets the tone of this cutscene so well. And, I mean, on top of getting stuff about Willow, we also get a bunch of stuff about Pony and some of the other TSP members, too. And I just think it's really, really great. Like, this was probably the best use of a CFC chapter story, and I think this is what some of these other chapters had to do a little bit better. And, I mean, this was the second one that Minitoon did, so he kind of knocked it right out of the park. And so for all those reasons and more, that's why Heist is my favorite Piggy CFC chapter. Yeah, so guys, with that said, I think that's actually going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you know when I post more awesome videos like this. This was really, really fun to make. I really love all of these chapters. They're honestly some of my all-time favorites in Piggy, so I'm really glad that we could just look back on them. And if you're trying to get into Piggy, this is probably one of the best ways to start because these chapters are genuinely really good. So yeah, let me know your ranking of these in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!